Well, changes announced by the White House just moments ago to our visa waiver program that's come under some increased scrutiny in light of the Paris terror attacks. This as the U.S. ramps up security around the holidays. The White House just announcing the U.S. will add more screening for travelers from 38 countries around the world who are allowed to enter the country, our country, without visas. Beginning immediately, the Department of Homeland Security will collect more information from travelers who have made past visits to countries constituting a terrorist safe haven. The agency will also look at pilot programs to collect more biometric information like fingerprints from travelers. The Obama administration also said DHS will ask Congress for additional powers, including the authority to increase fines for air carriers that fail to verify passport data. Senator James Lankford serves on the Homeland Security and Intelligence Committee. We're lucky enough to have him on the program while this news is breaking. Senator, because of your knowledge of the current state of affairs and your service on these variety of different committees, what did you know about potentially this proposal coming from the White House?
Yeah, I'm going to go through all the details of the proposal in the next 24 hours and get a chance to get all the information about it. It is an entirely reasonable thing to do when we have the movement and the free flow of people moving throughout Europe. Many of those areas are visa waiver areas that people freely move for business and for vacation time. That's a good thing to do. But if you have people flowing from Iraq and from Syria and from Tunisia and from Libya and other places and then getting into Europe and then getting over, we need to know that. Obviously, we need to identify those individuals and not allow them to free flow into the country.
One of the concerns about Paris, of course, there was a lot of looking at the refugee programs, but we know the terrorists in those attacks were French nationals, and if you're a French national, you can jump on a plane today, come to the United States, and come in fairly easily. So does it seem, from what you're hearing so far, and again, it's just kind of quickly coming towards us, that these immediate changes will have an immediate impact to make America more safe?
That will help because many of these individuals, for instance, from Paris as well, had traveled to Syria, had come back to France, and then were trying to get out to other places. So yes, it would catch in that situation. The difficulty is you're not going to get all of them. And so we need to know how to be able to catch those. The best way to do it is to clamp down on the visa waiver program, and then we'll start to deal with the refugees in the days ahead. But we've encouraged the administration, especially for the refugees, not to just accept people because we don't have negative information. We have to have positive information on any of those on the refugees. And so far, the administration has not agreed to that.
The White House does mention a 60-day review for Congress, so perhaps this is an area where there's some bipartisan support and perhaps an agreement between the White House and Congress. So we'll see where it goes. I want to ask you a little bit about the waste book, because you know our nation's security is directly linked to the health of our economy. We've talked a little bit about this. You just released what we're calling a book, which is entitled Federal Fumbles, which is just appropriate for football season, by the way. Some out-of-control government spending examples. Here's just a few of them for our viewers. $545,000 on truth-telling consultants, $1.2 million for a robotic dresser, and nearly $400,000 on a senior dating study. And we have, there's so many different examples, Senator. And it's funny on the one hand, and then not funny on the other, because this is our taxpayer money. But every year there's these examples that sound totally insane. Why does this continue?
It's painful, and it's painful in its inefficiency and its incompetence for individuals to be able to have a study, for instance, on the effect that lights have on bugs in rural areas. That's one of our tax dollars that work on that as well, for us to be able to study how will bugs react if a light goes on in a rural area. I think anyone in a rural area can tell you exactly how that's going to, what's going to happen. So many of those issues, it's just money thrown away. Some of those we look at as annoying because we know we work hard for those tax dollars and they're being wasted. Some of them are even more frustrating than that. For instance, when the IRS doesn't resolve the issue of tax fraud, individuals steal a Social Security number, fraudulently file a tax return. That's very difficult for that individual then to file their own tax return and to be able to get that back. Plus, it's billions of dollars lost. So it's extremely important we get this right, and it's just significant efficiency needs to be done.
You know, we have the book, as you just published. Again, this is just coming out just about an hour ago. Can't we just take a red pen and just draw a line through all of these items and just eliminate them? Why can't we just get rid of them?
We can, actually. So what we did is we identified not only the problem, but how to actually solve it, the exact process. I don't want to leave any belief that these are all unachievable. They're all achievable. They can be done. So we identified exactly how to actually do it, how to get rid of it, whether it's administration, whether it's new legislation, how to actually get this solved, and identified some areas where there has been some progress. The Department of Justice, for instance, in the last 2 years has reduced their conference spending by 2/3. That's to be commended. We identified some of those as well, but there's a tremendous amount of waste and a fraud that's out there still in the system. And we identified some of the regulations where the federal government's clearly beyond its bounds and responsibility.
I don't want to overlook the timing of this report. And I always like talking to you, Senator, because you always remind me that in your previous life, you served as the lead of the largest youth camp in the United States. Do I have that correct? Which I always think is fascinating, because I think there's some really interesting parallels to Congress, a youth camp and Congress. And so a lot of juveniles in both. Right. So the timing of this report, I don't want to forget, because we do have a little bit of a showdown, happening as far as keeping the government open and funded. And so how do you see the next several weeks playing out, and how can you apply what you learned in your report and the release of it today to make sure the American people get a better deal?
Right. The key thing is really oversight from Congress and the appropriations process going through that be able to identify where's wasteful spending and get rid of it. Every time there's a continuing resolution, you're taking last year's waste and you're dumping it into the next year. If there's an appropriations process that's done right, you're actually finding areas where there was a problem last year and fixing it for the next year. There will always be inefficiency as government. Government will never be as efficient as a business. But the way that you can make it better is to make it more transparent, so outside groups, individuals, every American, everyone in the media can see how money is spent. That creates additional accountability, and then to make sure that government works best when it's local. So get things out of the federal government, get it back to the states. It's more efficient in the state than it is in the federal level. So get it back to the state and get it more transparent.
All right, sounds like a good plan. We'll see what can actually be done. In the meantime, we'll continue to look through the book and some of the egregious examples. I know it's online for our viewers if they want to check it out as well.
Yeah, Lankford.senate.gov, and they can take a look at it.
Senator, nice of you to join us today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, the first of